Well, welcome back, everybody, to Music Talk. I'm Dave.
Mike.
And this week we got the new Jethro Tull. Looks like this, the Zealot Gene. And I don't even have to say what I'm going to say about this. You know what I'm going to say about this album cover. This is the worst album cover I think I've seen in 2 years. Oh. Here's a picture of the inside cover. He said this is a little better because he's actually looks like he's recording on this one. So I like that better there. Then you got some of the wording and the shading in there. And then the back has just got his profile with all the tracks with black and white writing. It's cool. You could read it. Yeah, hated the album cover. Now, this is the booklet. To me, that would have been a better album cover. It's like a cathedral or something in there. I don't know. That's pretty neat, though. I would have rather that been the album cover than his face and that shady stuff. But so anyway, you get here's the CD. Pretty much the same as the cover.
Well, that's one thing that falls in line with with Jethro Tull. Ian Anderson's always been the face of it. And he was on the majority of the covers. I mean,
yeah, he used to have some cool covers though.
Well, he made a great Aqualung.
Yeah, right. But that was a great cover, right? Yeah. But like Thick as a Brick, well, that was more like a newspaper.
It was a newspaper,
right? Yeah.
So. And and the whole the whole premise behind that was the 12-year-old boy wrote the whole thing and all that. They actually had people believing that for a while.
Right.
Like, he's writing lyrics like, sperm's in the gutter, your love's in the sink,
Yeah. That's a 12-year-old kid for you, right? But so this one here, this is an Inside Out Records, by the way, which we seem to get quite a few of lately.
Yeah.
This was I want to say it's produced and everything that was done by Ian Anderson. He had some engineers help him in some mixing, but he pretty much did all the writing and all the engineering and everything. You got a whole slew of people on here. I know they're not original members, obviously.
No.
But you had, Ian Anderson, of course. Then you got a guy on bass named Dave Goodyear.
Yeah.
Keyboards, John O'Hara. A guitar player, Florian Opali. And he left the band, and then a guy named Joe Parrish James came in for one of the other tracks on there. And then on drums, you got Scott Hammond, which I don't ever heard of any of these guys.
Scott Hammond, actually, I looked him up because I remember in early Tull days, there was a guy with the last name Hammond. And but I didn't find any links to where they were related or anything.
Right.
And the thing is, too, now, see, Ian Anderson has put out like 3 or 4 solo albums in the past 10 or 12 years. And one of the concerns that came up, and I thought about this too, because there was nobody. I mean, he doesn't even have Barr in there with him.
Right. Yeah.
And on this one, which his last solo album he did.
Did he?
Yeah. And so Jeffrey Hammond was one of the original members.
Yeah, he was the bass player.
Yeah. So, but anyway, it just came to my head. I had to spit it out before I forgot about, how old age is,
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, what my question was when I first started listening to it and reading up on who was involved in it and the way it was conceived and everything was, why didn't he just release it as another Ian Anderson? Well, I think what the problem was there is his other 3-4 attempts of solo sales didn't work because people don't really recognize the name Ian Anderson as quick as Jethro Tull.
True, yeah.
So, I understand that, I mean.
And these guys have been with him for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, some of them have even been with him for like 15 years doing the live Jethro Tull stuff, which Jethro Tull's last complete studio album was like 99.
Yeah, well, they did a reprieve.
They did a Christmas record.
Well, he did that, but they did Thick as a Brick too, a reprise.
I didn't see that anywhere. Only thing I saw was from 99.
they traveled around, and I think this was in 2011 actually, that they traveled around, and he had a son, James Duncan
Mhm.
Anderson, on drums, and that's where they hired that vocalist to come in because, and that's the other thing I was going to bring up is Ian Anderson's he's got a pretty good case of COPD,
Yeah.
and he has he's
But
got
was
it under
now on
control.
that stuff, was that new material?
Some of us knew the
Mostly it was just redoing.
well, they did. It's like a continuation of The Thick as a Brick.
Okay.
In other words, it's another application, and I haven't heard it. I
Right.
mean, I saw some of the live footage on YouTube,
Yeah.
but also there were some other original stuff that they were doing too. But I don't know. I think Barr was with him on that stuff in 2011, I believe.
Yeah. I'm not sure what Barr's up to. I know he's doing his own Jethro Tull thing now. He's doing songs of Jethro Tull, running around live, doing stuff, I think. But
Well, he was a co-writer on a lot of stuff.
right. Well, with
So,
this one here, I'll go through it real quick. We got some pictures. Apparently, Ian Anderson also is a photographer. So he's got a lot of cool pictures in here. Guys pretty much does everything, really. He's got explanations. So I'm not going to go into a lot of the song lyrics because if you buy the CD, he's got little explanations of how each song and what it's about and everything. You got a lot of religious undertones in here. You got all the lyrics, of course. And pretty much you got the back of the album here, which would have even been a pretty decent album cover too.
wow.
I mean, think about it. Which one would you anyway? So I was never a big Giant Toll fan. I mean, obviously I know Thick as a Brick and Aqualung, but I didn't really follow him much after that. I didn't know much about his 80s stuff. I mean, he won the first heavy metal Grammy award, which really was he didn't even want it because it's like I'm not heavy metal, but for
Right,
some
right.
reason, so he was one of the people to open up the eyes that the Academy really gives awards to people that they don't even know what they're doing, right? I mean, so but anyway, so with this record, I I thought it was decent, man. You have some really Toll sounding stuff on here,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I wasn't disappointed with it. I was a little disappointed in the vocals, but we can get into that a little bit too. So we'll go through the tracks real quick and then we'll talk a little bit about it. So you got track one is Mrs. Tibbetts. And this song here, the keyboard sounds annoyed me on this. They sounded almost like he was using like a Casio or something. I don't know. It was just something about those keyboard sounds drove me nuts, man. It's a typical Toll song. It opens up. It's a great opening to the record.
Uh-huh.
You had a lot of good dynamics on it. That breakdown before the solo section was awesome. The typical flute guitar run together. And, I thought it was a great song, other than the keyboard part annoyed me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just in general, talking about just with that song and, I mean, the whole album, to me, the whole album, CD, whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
it touched on, I think, every nuance that Tull has represented since they came into being Jethro Tull.
Mhm.
And like we were talking about, the vocal things, I was a little bit disappointed too in the vocals, but the reason why I say I was disappointed because he didn't show as much character as like he did on, Aqualung or the way he did Thick as a Brick. I mean, he had a lot of, but then you get to reading about what he's been going through. He's got that COPD and stuff.
Mhm.
After reading that, and after knowing too that in 2011 they hired a singer to come in and do the parts because he couldn't sing.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So, and reading on doing a little reading on him in general, I found out that he's, of course, he's taking medication for COPD, but he's got lung exercises and stuff that he's been doing. He said he just has to be real careful of where he goes. He cannot go into polluted places and expect to function normally. He said the way he's got it going right now with his lung exercises and his regiment that he's on, he said it doesn't slow him down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I'm sure that he's practiced, he's being real careful of how he's pushing himself. And it's amazing to me that he is able to play the flute the way he is.
Yeah.
Playing. I mean,
yeah, his flute work is fantastic on here.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
it really is.
His daughter actually sat him down and made him study and start learning how to properly do the finger techniques. Because that's the thing that people don't realize. He was a guitar player by trade and was not a singer. And when they wound up going with the Jethro Tull thing, he wound up having to sing. And for some reason, he taught himself to play flute.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You know,
I'll tell you though,
that was all for Jethro Tull. Now he plays the bazooka and all that stuff. You know, it's like.
Right. Well, on the second song we come up to is Jacob's Tales, and that's pretty much where he's doing everything. He's doing his folk stuff. You know, he's playing the mandolin and harmonica, the acoustic. And the folk stuff on here, his vocals fits much better.
Right.
Because it's more of like him telling you a story.
Yep.
Right. So he's not really trying to sing over a whole band, so to speak. So the vocals are a little bit better on the folksy stuff than they are with the whole band thing for me.
Right.
You know, and Jacob's Tales is proof of that, which I really liked it. I like the guitar line in it a lot, especially the ending, the way he ends it with that little melody.
Wasn't Jacob's Tales? Wasn't that the one with the piano interlude in the beginning?
No, that's the next one.
Okay.
That's number 3. Yeah, Jacob's Tale was just basically him on mandolin and acoustic. Just
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the third one, Mine is the Mountain, is the one with that little piano.
Right. Yeah, it reminded me a lot of on Aqualung.
Yeah.
They do
locomotive breath.
Yeah. Got that piano interlude.
Yeah.
Prior to that. There's a name that they call it. I forget what they called that interlude, but
and this song is one of my favorites on the record. Mine is the Mountain. I didn't really like when he went to that falsetto thing and said, "Mine is the mountain." You know, I didn't really dig that at all. But with that, aside from that, the song was great. It had a great bridge, had a great solo. The song was fantastic. I love the way it built and then it dropped down to just the piano again.
Right.
You know, I love that. And this was classic Tull to me.
Yeah. I'm happy with the album, to be honest with you. You know, I mean, one thing that I think that you're always going to get from Ian Anderson, I mean, he's going to put 100% into it. It might not come out sound like he did 30, 40 years ago.
Right.
But you're still going to get a product that's going to be, to me, top notch. And it's always going to have that folkish, minstrel feel and sound to it. And I love that. I love the natural instruments, you know, the mandolins, the acoustic guitars, the bouzouki's, and all that stuff. You know, I mean,
it's like going into an old Irish or Scottish pub,
right?
And that's who you got entertaining you.
Right. You know? I mean, he's got one song there. Somebody's playing accordion.
Yep.
And I loved it. You know, I'm not a big fan of accordions at all. You know, but the way it was used there, it wasn't out of place at all.
No. Well, the next song, number 4, is Zealot Gene. And it's a weird song to me because it starts out really heavy. That first intro, you know, and then it goes into this really happy thing, right? Totally, completely opposite of the beginning. And the song is really sort of an angry song, but he's singing it so delightful that you don't really get the anger in it. You know what I mean? It starts out angry and then it gets happy while he's singing angry lyrics to you. And it's totally strange to me.
It's it's his sense of humor.
Yeah.
But he's like we were talking about earlier, there's a lot of religion throughout the album,
Yep.
as far as references and stuff.
Yeah.
And what he's doing in his own way. And it's one of these people that can stand there right in your face and put you down and you don't even know it.
Yep. Yep. And I
And
mean,
that's what he's doing. He's looking at society as a whole.
yeah.
And he's like, okay, everybody acts like they're happy, but this is going on.
Yeah.
So hey, what is it?
Yeah. I know it's kind of weird. And I mean, the song it's got great lyrics to it for sure.
Yep.
It's got a really good breakdown again. Good. The bass line following the flute in there was cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the ending and beginning didn't match the rest of the song for me. So I thought that was a little strange. So anyway, then we get to number 5, which is Shoshana Sleeping. And I love this song. This is the one with the accordion in it. And
Right.
man, I think it's the one with the accordion in it, but maybe not. But the flute trills that he's doing in this, man, he's really got a way of hitting those trills on there. And it's real breathy, trilly notes. And it was great. I love this song. It's got a great guitar part on the chorus. He's doing that double whisper there, and the back kind of gives you that creepy feeling,
But he might have been using a bamboo flute. He well, his daughter, like I was saying earlier, made him sit down and learn the proper fingering and stuff. And after he went through all that, he started picking up bamboo flutes, wood flutes, and playing those. And from what I can gather, he falls back on those a lot more than he does on the regular orchestral flute.
Yeah,
So,
but this one here definitely sounds like a regular flute. It's got that metallic sound, but it's great. I mean, that creepy double whisper. It's got a cool keyboard part at the end. Reminds me of something that Genesis did on, maybe like Wind and Weathering or something. But I love this song. This is my one of my favorites on the record too. I thought it was great. The words are good. So that was pretty cool. We get to number 6. It's called Sad City Sisters, and it's basically back to your folk stuff about working women is what it sounds like. And this one I believe is the one with the accordion. I have that written here. So It's got an accordion in the background, and it's an interesting song. Very interesting song. It's back to the folk side.
mm-hmm.
So then we get to number 7, which is Baron Beth Wild Desert John, right? And it's got this very weird. I know his titles of his songs are always weird, man. They're crazy. But this has got like a weird time signature on it, and I couldn't figure it out. I don't know, was it like a 7/8 or I don't know, man. I was trying to count it out, and there was a weird odd meter in there that I couldn't quite grasp. But
it might have been, I don't know. I didn't really get that far into it to start figuring out time signatures, but I know a lot of these groups like this will fall back on like 13/8 and stuff like that.
That could be a 13/8. That's more of like what was going on, but it was cut into segments, so I couldn't figure it out. Had a really strange ending also, and it was almost like they ended it and they forgot they were coming up to the ending, and then all of a sudden, we got to end it. You know what I mean? It was one of those kind of endings. It's like, oh man, we're almost there.
Yeah.
But and he's got a really strange falsetto thing in it that wasn't too great, but the song was okay. Good guitar tone though. The guitar tone on it was fantastic.
Yeah, I thought the guitar player was great all the way through.
Yeah,
I really did.
So number 8 is The Betrayal of Joshua Kind. Another good title, right? Yeah. And this one here was another typical Tull. Had the great bass flute line playing with each other. The opening riff with the piano interlude and the open space was pretty awesome. Another one of my favorites on the record. Really like this one. And then we get to 9, 10, and 11, and I'm just going to lump all 3 of those in because there wasn't much difference between any of those songs. In fact, 10 and 11 actually go right into each other.
Right.
There's no pause.
Yeah, he's pretty good about doing well. I mean, again, you look at Thick as a Brick. I mean, that's just all one big song, but
Yeah.
there's so many movements in there.
Yep.
And I'm sure that that's what was going on with those last three songs. It was all part of some big orchestral movement that he was doing, and they just decided to break it up.
Yeah, it was kind of that way. The words were completely different on all three of these songs. It's really the music was very similar, not exact, but the 10 and 11 were almost a spitting image of each other. 9 was a little different. So they still had some cool stuff in there. You had nice doubling with the guitar, bass, flute stuff going on. So the last song on the record was The Fisherman of Ephesus. And this one to me was a little strange because it was kind of all over the place. It had this drum pattern going in there with these tom runs in there. And it was really hard to grasp. The breakdown and the solo were great, but when the drummer was doing that roll thing, that tom roll, it's kind of weird to me. I mean, it was too much going on with it. I felt like once he settled in later in the song, it was much better. But at the beginning with all the tom stuff going on, it just kind of took me all over the place, man. I couldn't concentrate on what was happening.
I liked what the drummer did throughout the whole album. I really missed a lot of the little effects, symbols and stuff that you're used to hearing in earlier Tull stuff.
Right.
I did hear the timpanis and stuff like that going on at times, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
They were, and it was real prominent on, again, Thick as a Brick. They would be doing these little wild, I call them jazz interludes, and they'd stop and you hear the drummer go,
yeah. Yeah, just a little.
Some little crash sound,
Yeah, right. And there was a couple things like that on here, but not much. And I think Ian Anderson did some percussion as well. So he was probably adding stuff in as he was doing mixing and all. So the few bad things I have about this record was I thought the electric guitar was too low in the mix. You could hardly hear it at some points. And I felt like that might be why some of the songs didn't grab you as much, like, the Zealot Gene and stuff. If he would have pushed that electric guitar up louder, you would have felt that anger a little more. You know what I mean? Because sometimes there was like so much going on that the guitar was getting drowned out quite often on this record. So I don't know if he did that on purpose because the guy left the band or what, because I wouldn't think he would. I just think he missed it a little bit on the guitar. I think it could have been a little higher in the mix.
Could be too that he was just making sure that, again, that the guitar parts weren't so prominent that when they go out and tour, if you can't get somebody to do the parts.
Yeah, you missed the guy, yeah.
So if they're not as prominent and then you get a killer guitar player in there and you, in the live show, boost him out there, then we're even that much more happy,
Right, that's true. And there was a couple of guitar solos where he actually did push him up in the mix, and it was great. But a lot of the rhythm stuff going on, I mean, it seemed like they just had him in the background. Another thing I had on problem with was you had a lot of big riffs on here, and then as soon as it went to the vocals, everything dropped off, and it was very like I guess I don't want to say stale, but it was just very monotonal almost,
kind of generic sounding.
Yeah, something like that. Because I mean, when you're opening up these songs, I mean, they're hitting you big. Boom, you got the whole Jethro Tull thing, and then all of a sudden, boom, stops. He sings, and his vocals were a little weak. We've talked about that a little bit, but it wasn't bad enough to where I didn't like it, but I did feel it was a little wasn't strong. Some of the times the songs weren't strong,
I just think that he's designing, engineering by design, what you're hearing, so it can be reproduced live.
Right, exactly.
Filling himself to sing above everything going on.
Right, and like you were saying, that he hired a singer before, right, to do the stuff that he sang back then, but now he's recording something he can sing now, that he doesn't have to have somebody come in and sing.
Right,
So,
right.
and on the folk stuff, his voice was great. It was almost even stronger. Like he was more comfortable singing the folk stuff. But then when the band was in, it almost felt like he was kind of didn't want to push himself. I don't know. It was kind of weird to me. And then I also found that they had this pattern going on to where it was intro, verse, chorus, really cool bridge with a lot of flute and a lot of dynamics, then a solo, and then back to the verse. I mean, every song with the band was almost the same exact pattern.
Yeah, well, that's that old school way of doing things. I mean, that was part of when I first started playing music. That's all I had to know.
Mhm.
Was, yeah, verse, chorus, instrumental, verse, chorus, turnaround, and song.
Exactly.
I mean, and that's the way it went. I mean, pretty much that was the template for everybody.
Yeah. Yep. But now on the other hand, there's some great stuff in here too. I mean, all the songs were written well. I think they're really good songs. There's, Mine is the Mountain, So Shine a Sleeping, and The Betrayal of Joshua Kine are really great Jethro Tull sounding songs. You know what I mean? So if you like the 70s Tull, those three songs hit that right on the head. And Mrs. Tibbetts even too, until it gets to the vocal part. But there's a lot of dynamics going on in that as well. The folksy stuff, yeah, I mean, it was good. It was really good. It was like being, in an Irish pub. It really was. And, you had a jester or someone singing and playing and performing for you. And he hit those right on the mark, and that's a typical Tull trait as well. So overall, I thought the record was a good record. Hate the album cover, but I like the record itself. I think the songs are good. I'm gonna give it a 6.9. I thought it was a 6.9 material. I don't know. The more I listened to it, the more I liked it. The more I leaned to some of the folk stuff. The more I listened to it, I was like, man, these folk songs are really great, and I'm expecting the 70s, but I'm getting what I wanted out of the, the folk era of Tull as well.
Yeah.
So 6.9 is probably a little low. I should have probably pumped it up a little more, but
I'm gonna give it an 8.
Yeah.
Because and probably being unfair about it, I went into it with the whole mindset of, okay, Jethro Tull, and that's what you get, but you're getting a more mature version of it because of age, health, and the man's still kicking it out there. And
I mean, for 23 years or whatever it was, it's a good comeback record.
Yeah.
For Jethro Tull.
The one album I did not like that Tull did was Living in the Past.
Yeah.
I didn't like that. I liked the live side of that album. I did not like the studio stuff they had on there.
Yeah.
I think they had Bungle in the Jungle and all that stuff,
Right.
And I think, honestly, I really believe that the only reason why Ian Anderson put that stuff out there is because they had a contract and they had to fulfill it. And he's like, okay, y'all can't wait around for me to write some good stuff. Well, I'm going to give you Bungle in the Jungle or whatever,
Right. And I went back and listened to what's it called? The Beast and the Broadsword or something.
Right.
And that's a pretty good record, man.
Oh, yeah.
That's 40 years old this year.
Yeah.
So I went and listened to a little bit of that the other day, and that was a good record. So, and that's kind of was going back and trying to listen to what he did in the 70s and the 80s. And I kind of skipped the 90s because I didn't really, I don't know, 90s, I don't know. But anyway.
I don't think he did a whole lot in the 90s, honestly.
Yeah, I think he did is it Crest of the Knave? Was that in the 90s? I think it maybe. I don't know. There was a couple of them he did, but
I don't know. He kind of dropped out of sight there for a while. I just, I don't know. The only reason why I knew he was still alive, actually, here a few years back, was I just started searching for him on YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean, what better way than to dig up some music and listen to it,
Exactly.
All of a sudden I came across all these live performances and stuff, and he was still kicking it, but that's how I found out he had hired a singer and he had his son playing drums.
Right.
which was, I thought, pretty cool because his son was using a small kit, just a little 4-piece kit. And his ride cymbal had a big old chip out of it. It's a big old piece missing out of the ride cymbal. And so it must have been a good sounding cymbal for him to be carrying it around on a live tour. You know?
Right. Yeah, it was his favorite. It's his favorite cymbal, you know.
So maybe I'll go out and buy a new one and take a hammer and beat a piece of it off.
It might give you that sound you want, you know. When you get something you like, man, it's hard to let it go.
I know.
You know, I mean, you can't create those sounds like you used to, you know. I mean, it's hard to get good cymbals anymore.
Well, I'm gonna plug Zealot Gene right now because I got a retro. They got this line they've come out with, and I bought a 19-inch crash ride, and it's old vintage Zealot Gene.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you right now, that cymbal, it kills everything else in my collection. It's weird.
Well, Zealot Gene's always been the top of the line, right?
I wish they would go back to that old formula. I swear. When they started making, and I know they've been making Zealot Genes for years and years and years and years, but they've got all these different lines now. Just stop all that mess. Just make a decent set of cymbals with a good combination.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, you want a dry sounding cymbal, get the duct tape out. Tape that bad boy up.
That's right. Or take a chunk out of it.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll wrap this up real quick. All right, Jethro Tull, Zealot Gene, looks like this. Sorry. I gave it a 6.9. Mike gave it 8.0. It's good Jethro Tull record, man. Good comeback for him, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So hopefully he'll continue.
Yeah. I hope to hear more from him. And like you, I really like the folk sounding stuff. I really like that minstrel type music. It's just magical. You're able to hear the story that's being told.
Yeah, exactly. I would actually like to go see him just do that stuff by himself, or maybe with one other person.
I think there's videos out there of him doing stuff like that. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I've run across a couple.
Yeah. So that's where you get a nice old stout beer and you just kick back and you just let them tell you stories, man.
Right.
So, all right. Well, until next time, y'all stay safe out there.
That's right. Peace out and listen to the music.